everyone, and welcome to our webinar as we are celebrating International Men's Day. And this year's theme is Leading by Example, celebrating men as positive role models. So, wish you everyone a very happy International Men's Day. So, today we have the privilege of having Mr. Arjun Gupta, a leading example and a positive role model for many, a counseling psychologist and a writer from Hisar, Haryana, who strives to make mental health more accessible to the public through his lectures, articles, and videos, focusing on men's mental health. Mr. Arjun Gupta draws on personal experience with clinical depression to foster understanding and sensitivity towards an often ignored aspect of mental health. So we understand that there are many factors that shape who we are. So can you please shed some light on the role of media and modeling behavior? How does that work?
Yes, of course. I think one of the most important things about human psychology is that we imbibe the things that we see around us. And that can be the things that we see happening from our parents, from our families, from our friends. And it can be things that we see on the media as well, whether it was the study that was done by Albert Bandura or the studies that were done by Eric Erickson. So there is this age around adolescence, right, where a child is looking to build their own identity. They're trying to separate themselves from their parents and trying to understand who they are as people, separate from their parents, their friends. They are becoming a person of their own self. And this is also a time where you experience a lot of conflict because you don't know who you are at a very deep level. You don't know who you are, you don't know who you are not. And you need answers to such questions as well. And we seek those answers outside. We seek those answers from our family members, from our friends, from the media that we consume, whether it is on social media, whether it is TV shows, whether it is movies. We are always trying to answer a very particular question about ourselves in adolescence, especially. Who are we? And what values do we have? What goals do we have in our life? What do we want to become? What kind of a life do we want to lead? And thus it becomes very important that we have role models at this particular time, because not having role models can leave you very lost. It can make you feel like you have no idea where you're going, what you're doing, and that can be quite troublesome for a lot of young people.
Exactly. I do agree with that. And there's a very fun fact where in 1999, Dr. Jerome Tilaksin chose November 19 to honor his father's birthday
Hmm.
and celebrate men who contribute positively to society. So it's a day to recognize and celebrate the positive value men bring to families, communities, and society. It's also a platform to discuss issues faced by men and promote gender equity. So today I take a moment with due respect and thank all the men who have shaped me and made me who I am. I feel immense gratitude for all the positive male role models that have shaped me and made me who I am. I feel immense gratitude. So they inspire through their actions, character, and contribute to the society. One of my favorite movies have been Angrezi Medium, Dangal,
Hmm.
Padman, and many alike. So, Mr. Gupta, do you have any such favorite movies?
Hmm.
With yeah.
Look, when we think about movies, I feel the display of masculinity is very limited. The struggles of men there are very limited. So we do get to see positive masculinity in these movies, uh, but we don't really get to see the backstory of these men as well, right? We get a very narrow, very small worldview into their lives, that they are good people, but how did they become good people? That is very often missing in such stories. I think that said, there was Vikrant Massi's movie, 12th Pass, 12th Fail, but
Yes, yes.
12th Pass was it?
Yeah.
Which was really good. I think that really talked about, or discussed at least, or displayed the
Mm.
kind of experiences that a man has. He has an ambition that he wants to clear IAS, and he has the potential, but he's struggling. He's struggling because of his financial conditions. He's struggling because of his personal conditions. He's lost his grandmother recently. He's lost people close to him, and he's feeling a bit lost, right?
Mm.
And despite all those things, he chooses to be a good person. He chooses to trust other people. He chooses to help other people. He chooses to serve other people. And I think that's very important to show those stories as well, that yes, it is possible that there will be circumstances where you will feel like you have been done wrong, you have been treated unfairly, there has some injustice that has happened to you, but that does not have to mean that you end up becoming a person like them as well. You can choose to do the right things. You can choose to um, um, be a role model of your own masculinity. And I think at the end there is this scene where he becomes an IPS officer.
Yes,
The person who inspired him to become an IPS, he gets a salute from him because now he's at a senior post than him.
yes, yes.
Right. And I think that is a very, very healthy display of how masculinity is all about pushing people, inspiring people, making them be their best self, and respecting the people that they have become, despite the struggles that they have gone through. So I feel like that is a very good movie that was made about
Mm.
positive male role models.
Sometimes we do not acknowledge or we don't know what role we are playing. Similarly, in the movie, he didn't understand what role he has
Yeah.
on Vikrant. So I think that was very beautifully put. Even Super 30 movie.
Super 30, yes. Super 30 as well. I think again um that was more about, how one person can be very driven into
Hmm.
changing lives of others as well, which is again, in that case, that was a man who was doing it. And those movies just display that there are odds that you will be up against, there will be challenges that you will come up against, but ultimately it comes down to the values that you have. If the values that you have, you stay true to them, you might not be where you wanted to be. You might not
Hmm.
achieve the ambitions that you had in mind, but at least you'll be as satisfied with who you are as a person. You will not really be struggling with your own self at a later stage. And I think that's really important to display.
Do you believe in superheroes?
Believe मतलब होते ही हैं. Like there are movies, very good movies of superheroes out there. So yeah, मतलब they're there. Yes.
So, do you think they serve as important role models for young boys?
Well, having been a young boy who is a very big fan of Superman and Batman, yes, they absolutely do. मतलब definitely. I won't lie. Maybe they shouldn't, because there are way too many cases of young boys who thought that they could fly like Superman, and then they did some very stupid stuff. So maybe not that much, but yes, I think such superheroes, such displays of um, very relatable characters, very
Mhm.
relatable people, very relatable young boys who are capable of doing so many things, capable of doing so much more than what you'd expect from just one person, right? I think that is a huge value that these superheroes provide to other people. And I think uh, uh, we do sometimes take it a bit too far, as in the case of the Superman thing I mentioned, that people think
Mhm.
that they can fly as well. But if we don't cross those limits of reason, I think superheroes, wherever they are, whether they're Marvel or DC being better, they can serve as very good role models for young boys, that they can be their best self and help others, and um, do it for the sake of helping others, not for the sake of, getting the recognition, getting the fame, getting the rewards. Just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Most of the superheroes have been shown being very well built, muscular. Yet
Hmm.
at the same time, we have this Thor where he suddenly was grown fat. He was drinking alcohol, and then he was not the typical superhero anyone would think of. So,
Hmm.
what do you have to say about superheroes when they've been put in certain characteristics of what is considered masculine and what isn't? So, can you shed some light on that?
Personally, I feel like the standards of the ideal male body, they really create some unrealistic standards of these of what is expected to be healthy male body, right? You look at Hugh Jackman's physique from 2001 when the first X-Men movies came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's very realistic. of how a muscular man looks. Okay? But then you look at Thor's latest movie. Which one was it? The black and white one, the recent one.
I don't
Uh,
remember. I think it was Avengers.
huh. Whatever it was, matlab, he was very, very ripped, way too ripped for any human being to be capable of achieving, right? So I think those things unfortunately create some very unrealistic standards for a young boy about what their physique should look like. Uh,
Hmm.
it creates very, very difficult standards that they cannot really achieve unless they are fully committed to bodybuilding as their whole thing, like their whole
Hmm.
and then there is the risk of anabolic steroids as well, supplements. So, yes, you make a good point that superheroes sometimes also serve as models for our physiques, for the ideal physique. And those physiques are very often, at least in modern times, very unrealistic. But at the same time, we sometimes see the other side of being a superhero. We see the tough parts of being a superhero, where you mentioned Thor. He's lost his home planet. It's been blown up to pieces, and he's just completely distraught about who he is as a person. I feel like the movie did not really, I think, really delve into the depths of that experience. They just showed him suffering. They just showed him very distraught. He was drinking, he was not grooming, he was eating a lot. Uh, and then when the hammer came to him, when Mjolnir came to him, the first thing he said, "Oh, I'm still worthy. That
Hmm.
okay, I still have it. This doesn't change who I am as a person." So I feel those messages are very important as well. That you might lose yourself at particular
Yes.
time in your life, but it does not mean that it changes who you are as a person. Who you
Hmm.
are as a person at your core is determined when you're very young. And if you stay true to that, eventually you'll still be worthy of the things you have in your life.
Yeah, one of my favorite characters, Black Panther,
Hmm.
and personally, I really like him because he has an army of empowered women,
Hmm.
and how he leads with a lot of emotional intelligence, and his leadership is not of dominance but more of liberation. So
Hmm.
at the same time, there's fight for peace.
Hmm.
So to get something, he has to fight because there's no way out. Most of the times it's shown that violence is the way out for peacekeeping, and men are usually at the forefront. Yes. So, what do you have to say about this? That how violence has been portrayed in movies and how men have to be at the forefront.
Well, I think taking the example of Black Panther, I feel like it's an unfortunate fact of the world that we live in, that there are violent forces out there, and in order to protect ourselves from them, we end up having to choose violent methods as well. The problem I feel becomes when we become the ones who are aggressors. Uh,
Hmm.
Violence, I'm not very Gandhian in that sense that
Yeah.
this is never an answer. Sometimes it is the answer, but only when done for defenses, right? I think that is a very basic value that we can all
Hmm.
agree. You shouldn't be somebody who's hurting someone else who's not really done anything to you, who's not really brought on any harm to you. But we sometimes get so blinded by our own preconceived notions, by our own biases, by our own stereotypes of the other person, that we end up um, getting violent with them, right?
Yeah.
And I feel I feel the way men are brought up, the way boys are brought up, anger is one of the very few emotions that men are allowed to feel. Young boys are allowed to feel, so they are allowed to be angry, right? We have that archetype of the angry young man, that who's always upset about how things are, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. He's willing to go against the system as well, even if it comes to him at a personal cost. Um, that's not always necessary to bring a change. You don't always need to be angry to bring a change. You don't always need to uh, fight against like 10, 12 people in order to bring a change. Sometimes
Hmm.
when you think about it in the real world, very long lasting, very effective change can be brought on uh, through very effective methods as well. Just building dialogues, building bridges, taking people on together to build something greater than yourself. That is very important as well. So वही है, वायलेंस ऐसा नहीं है कि कभी भी नहीं यूज करनी, कभी कभी करनी पड़ती है,
Hmm.
बट when we grow up we feel like whenever we face some difficulty, violence is the first answer.
Hmm.
That is the most readily available answer that we have at times. Is it develops instinctually at a point.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
instinct is of violence,
Hmm.
but just because it is an instinct does not mean you have to act on it, right?
Hmm.
So वो उसमें थोड़ा आपको कॉग्निशन डालनी पड़ती है. यू हैव टू थिंक अबाउट योर एक्शंस, यू हैव टू थिंक अबाउट योर द बेस्ट वे फॉरवर्ड, एंड आई थिंक दैट्स मोर इम्पोर्टेंट इन द लॉन्ग रन.
Yes. I think in the movie also has shown a contrast between Killmonger and Black Panther, where Killmonger always wanted violence as the way out, but Black Panther tried different methods, and that violence was the last method. Yes.
इतनी तो
Sometimes,
याद भी नहीं मेरे को.
yeah. So sometimes stereotypes can limit what we believe we can achieve. It can be challenged when we see someone who look like us or comes from a background similar to us succeed in their field and can inspire, motivate to push those barriers that we have due to stereotypes. So, but what happens when someone lacks a role model in their lives, when they do not have someone in their lives who have similar background or similar stories that limit them, and they've come past that.
So, there is this age between 14 to 24, where if you go through the data, this is the age where you're at the risk of high risk behavior, taking the most risk possible. Okay? This is the age when most of the people commit crimes in their life. So if you're somewhere between 16 to 24, the most likely time that you will commit a crime throughout your life is this age.
Hmm.
The most likely age where you'll be in your first relationship is also 16 to 24. The
Hmm.
most likely age where you'll start your first business is also 16 to 24. The most likely age of taking some risks that have a lot of downside, but also a lot of upside to them, is this age group. And what risk we end up taking at this age is determined by the role models that we have around us,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's a risk of starting a business, whether it's a risk of being in a relationship with somebody, trusting somebody with your own happiness, being a bit dependent on them. This is also the age where we choose our careers, right? So changing our careers, changing our jobs, changing our whatever we end up doing, it's all risky at this stage, and whatever risks we end up taking will be determined by our role models. So if I'm surrounded by people in my life who encourage business risks, I'm okay with taking business risks because they will be able to guide me through it.
Hmm.
But if there's nobody around, if there's nobody who can guide me, who can just serve as a model for me, ki I
Hmm.
can do what they did, I can try and do what they did, that is where it becomes problematic, and that is where people end up falling for criminal behavior or harmful behavior, where they're trying to see what risks they're willing to take, but they don't understand the consequences that come with it, and that can lead to a lifetime of problems in the long run. Right. So that is why I believe that it's very, very important that you have some role models in your life. It does not even have to be a celebrity. It does not have to be somebody who's very famous, very successful. It could be somebody that you just look up to in your life.
Hmm.
It could be a senior, it could be a colleague, it could be your brother, your father, your cousin, anybody who you can look up to as a young boy and say, "This is the kind of man I want to be when I grow up." Uh,
Hmm.
that's very, very important to have something like that at a young age.
Yeah, just picking up good things from everyone.
Yeah,
And yes. Yes.
exactly. But there needs to be somebody to pick those things from. There's nothing there, if there's nothing to pick up from,
Yeah.
you will try your hand at everything. You will not know the difference between good and bad very clearly. So you'll have to experiment it on your own.
Yeah.
And those won't always work out well.
I think a lack of role model can also lead to a lot of substance use and
Yeah.
also deviating to a lot of pornographic content, because in my experience it had happened, and I don't blame them for that, because I do understand what a lack of role model, and because they were not guided well as well. So what it can lead to. So do you have any such insights or experience as well?
Yeah, see, these people are role models as well, ultimately, right? People who lead us through those things, who get
Hmm.
us into substance abuse, who get us into alcohol, who get us into drugs, people who get us into pornographic content, they're role models as well. We are modeling their behavior. They are
Hmm.
saying that this is normal, and we are saying, okay,
Hmm.
looks okay to me. And that happens because we don't have better role models to choose from. If those are the only options that are in front of us, if those are the only things that are normalized, we will do those things as well. And I'm talking about very young children, maybe who are 10 to 14, who don't really understand the difference between right and wrong, who don't understand morality or situations, the harms that these things can bring. They will see that an adult is engaging in these things, and they will feel, okay, it can't be that bad. What's the
Hmm.
worst that could happen? Right? Um, and we tend to think of role models as a concept of being only positive, being only good, but negative role models exist as well, bad role models exist as well. What we need to do is present all kinds of role models, the good, the bad, the terrible, the great, and let a person choose what kind of a person out of these do you wish to be. What kind of a man do you wish to be? What kind of a life do you wish to lead in the long run?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's a lot more important, giving people the choice to choose who their role models can be, instead of saying that this is bad, this is good, and do what we want you to do.
Exactly. So when we say that this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is positive, this is negative. So we have created that black and white thinking
Mm,
and dichotomies in our head. And who decides this right, wrong, good, bad? Because what I might be thinking right for me is like it's right, but
mm,
for you it might be wrong. So
yeah.
because it's been indoctrinated in us, because we've been raised in particular way, society has been taught us to be this particular way, I don't understand what is right and wrong. So when would someone understand that there's a lack of role model, or this is bad, or this is good, or negative, positive?
Mm. Good question. And I'm afraid it often happens when we see the consequences of the actions that we modeled from our role models, right? So I used to do these support groups for a lot of men last year. And what made people join those support groups was often that they messed up big time with somebody very important in their life, and they were full of regret. And they used to think, why did I do that? What made me do that? I did not want to do that, but yet I did. And I feel
Hmm.
terrible about it. And when you dig into those things, you find out that they were just doing things that they thought were okay, that they thought were normal. They did not want to do them, but it just felt like, okay, maybe this isn't that bad. And it is only when you actually face the consequences, in most cases, that you realize, okay, no, this is not really something that I want to do. Now, the problem here becomes that we often want to shield people from the consequences as well, because somewhere deep down at a human level, we understand that they didn't know what they were doing. But at the same time, if they don't face those things, maybe they won't change as well. So how do you draw that? How do you balance those things? How do you um, make them believe that what they did was wrong, what they did was harmful, and they need to change their value system. They need to change how they look at the world, how they think about the world. At the same time, you don't want to be too harsh on them at the same time. So that is
Hmm.
the balance that we need to draw in the long run.
Do you have any other stories which, the audience can benefit from the rich experience that you have as
Ah,
you're advocating for men's right? And
देखो अब I won't share the stories that were shared
not
on
stories,
or
but
the
just
or
insights.
the clients. I'll share something personal only. I think when I was very young, I used to I used to be very bad at expressing my emotions. Okay, so I still am. I'm pretty sure I still am, but I think I was particularly bad at that time. And what I did when I wasn't really good at expressing was I just blurted it all out of nowhere. It was either 0 or 100. Either I'll tell nothing or I'll say everything at the same time. And what that led to was that one time I was very upset with one of my friends back in school, and I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was like, "हाँ हाँ ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है चला 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 चला." Until one day I just burst out at him, and I was like, "No, go away! I don't want to." I almost got into a fight with him because I did not really express myself well. Um, and I was then sent to the school psychologist, and it was a big thing. Oh, you're a very silent guy. Why did you do this?" And I was like, uh, वो समझ ही नहीं रहा था. He wasn't understanding me. मतलब कैसे करूँ मैं? तो the psychologist asked me कि okay, how will they understand you? तो वो बोले कि नहीं, ये तो होता है, ऐसे ही होता है कि if somebody is uncomfortable, you stop. So how will they know that you're uncomfortable? You have to tell them, right? Oh, this is new. I didn't know we had to do that. Um, and when I think about it, the modeling came from the people around me when I was a child. It was that is how we used to do things. Uh, Myself in my own environment. Either you um, leave a lot of things out unsaid, you let a lot of things linger, or you just bring it on full 100% and just break things up. है ना? So ठीक है, that was a very mild example of when I realized कि ठीक है, the models that I have of my life, कि how I should live, how I should express myself, how I should be, was not really matching up with the world around me. That's when I had to change. तो इसी में आपको एक free story भी मिल गई. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I do understand that it takes a lot of courage, and also you expressed yourself. So I think you've come a long way.
Yeah.
So, where can we find role models and how we can become one?
Hmm. I feel we often seek role models very away from us. Like we seek role models in celebrities and cricketers and social media influencers, in politicians. Some people see them, but I feel we can find role models around us in our environment. Very good role models in our environment around us. Um, because see, when we see celebrities, when we see actors, when we see cricketers or any sports people, we see very, very filtered down versions of them. Like there's a lot of filters that a person goes through before you get to know about them through the media. We get very PR managed images of them, interviews of them, thoughts of them, podcasts of them, and we tend to believe that this is all there is to them. We don't really know them very well, but we think we know them well. And I feel that creates a lot of problems because we don't really get to see the depth of their experiences. So I feel personally that we should seek role models around us, whether they're your family members, whether they're our friends, whether they're your colleagues, whether they're my gym trainer is a very good human being. I really like him as a man. And those things you see this person, you see how they behave with others, how they are in their life, how they interact with people in their life, the values that they hold, and you feel somewhere that you want to have those values as well, you want to embody those values as well. So I think that's a lot more important. You seek role models around you, the values that they embody. And if you want to be a role model, I think again it comes down to the values that you have to stay true to your values. You have to practice what you preach. You have to lead by example, and you have to again be a model. And that means being a person that others can see and think, okay, I want to be like that as well, which ultimately is down to honesty. If you're honest and with integrity, I think you will be a role model for most people around you.
Yeah. So first it starts with acknowledging who are the people around you and then picking up the values that matches with what you want to be.
Yeah, like I'll give an example. For me, my dad is my role model, right? He gets out of the home at around 9. He wakes up at around 7. He wo he exercises. He's 70 years old and he's still exercising. I don't know why, but he's still exercising. He has his breakfast and he goes to work. Okay. He works, he's a doctor, so he's working at the hospital for around 10-12 hours. He's taking an OPD for 3 hours. He's doing surgeries for the next 6-7 hours, back-to-back surgeries. Um, and yet, when he comes back home at night after dinner at around 11, he puts on earphones on his phone and he's learning new techniques of surgery. He's learning new things. What are the
Hmm.
latest developments in surgery? What are the latest techniques that are being used uh, to have quicker recovery times? And I'm like,
Hmm.
hey, क्यों मतलब 70 के
Seems nice.
yeah, right. Like it's like, bhai, अब आप rest कर लो. You don't need to learn more stuff at 70, but he's
Hmm.
still so dedicated to learning new things, to becoming a better professional, to becoming an honest professional, that he's still learning. He's that passionate about those things. And that's like, ठीक है, बस इससे ज़्यादा और क्या करना है ना आपको? This is good enough for me as a person, that this, if I embody those things when I'm 70, I will be good. Um, Take the example of my gym trainer. When I go, how he pushes other people to be a better version of themselves. When the client themselves, the other clients that he works with, when they are getting tired, how he manages to push them to be a better version of themselves. He pushes them, but he's also very kind to them. He's also key. Okay, let's try four more
Yes.
minutes of treadmill. Let's try a bit more, and then we'll see what happens. Okay. So I think those things, like if you are seeking role models, you'll find them around you. You'll see that you have a very good vibe with them. You like being around them. You like talking to them, and one way or the other, you're always trying to learn from them. How did you end up coping with this? How did you end up coping with that? Um, and once you acknowledge that this is happening because somewhere or the other you see them as a role model, um, that curve of growth will just increase like a hockey stick growth. Ekdam.
Hmm.
You'll learn so much more about yourself and about other people from there.
Yeah, I do agree, and I have a similar experience with my father as well. That he is not like any other father, like anyone would describe that. I was the first person who was in the family who went outside the country and studied. So
Hmm.
none of the family members would send their daughters outside, but he has so much of faith that my daughter won't do anything wrong, and he inspires me a lot because he treats me very differently.
Hmm.
So he's very caring. Whenever I need him, he's always there. He'll ask me. He'll always be attending my functions or cheering me up. So it's fun being with my father, and he is also my role model, I would say.
Exactly.
And yeah, so we do have a lot of positive role models, but I think it starts with acknowledging first. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I think acknowledging and like sometimes we take a lot of things for granted, especially when
Hmm.
they're coming from people around us. We think that this is just how it is. This is the default. Okay, there are no other options. And it's only after a point of time when we experience the diversity of people there are out there,
Hmm.
that they could have become so different as people. They could have done so many things, but they chose to be like this. They decided to be like this. That is where it becomes very important. That's where they become role models. ठीक है, there are loads of different types of people. There are parents, there are fathers who are very harsh, who are very strict, who are very distant, who are very limiting as well with their children. There are a lot of fathers who are very abusive as well, unfortunately. And when you get to know that there are so many things that could have been, you learn to appreciate the things that you have right now. And eventually, you also try to embody those things. You try to inculcate those things in yourself and become a version of themselves in your own being.
So, all in all, do you have any advice or a takeaway message for the audience here? So we have 10 minutes for, we have 10 minutes and then we can take the questions from the audience. But before that, do you have a message for the audience of how they can find their role models or what are the things that they need to look for?
I feel if I tell you who should be your role model, who shouldn't be your role model, you won't really believe me because you have only, well, all of you have only known me for 40 minutes at best. So why trust me? What I'd say is that uh, there are loads of values, there are loads of different types of people that you can end up becoming. And you'll find decent people, you'll find different kinds of people in all these different types, right?
Mhm.
Uh, the most important thing is what makes you comfortable in your own skin. Which
Mhm.
type of person makes you comfortable in your own skin, where you feel, okay, I am okay with being like this. I don't mind being like this. Um, I want to be like this. Okay. That this is what will bring me happiness and peace. I feel that is those are two values that I feel all of us are going towards. We all
Yeah.
want those things in our life. We want happiness and we want peace and we want stability. So what kind of people, what type of people can offer me that kind of a life? That is important. If you're somebody who's not looking for happiness and peace, that is a different question. वो आपको जो चाहिए आप उसको ढूंढो लोगों में and then choose your role models. And the first step of that is knowing what you want in the long run, knowing yourself in the long run. That will determine who your role model will be. And what you want will also be determined by the role models you've had in the past. So it's not like we are completely free from any social influences at any point. It's just about recognizing these influences and choosing the things that we want to be.
However, what's your definition of positive male role model or the qualities, like few adjectives or qualities that you have for yourself personally?
For my own role models,
Mhm.
integrity, kindness, ambition, and collaboration. I feel collaboration is very important because it's important to take people along with you. It can be very easy to just do it yourself, pura lone wolf style, but it's not a very happy life to live as a lone wolf. So, ambition, kindness, somebody who embodies these values, that you want to grow, that you want to learn more, you want to earn more, you are ambitious, but at the same time, you're very kind and grateful for the things you have as well. So,
Mhm.
these are the personal ones for me. What about you?
About me, someone who is caring, someone who thinks about the other person, tries to change their beliefs
Mm-hmm.
for the other person's happiness, adapts to the generation. So I think those are the qualities that I have spoken about my father itself because I was just thinking about him.
Yeah.
So, yes, those are the qualities.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone who sacrifices a lot
Mm.
but show it on his face. Yeah,
Mm.
I think,
Sacrifice is a new one. Yeah, I think if you're doing all these things, if you're choosing to be caring and choosing to be understanding of the generations that come after you, there will be some sacrificial elements that will come to you. You'll have to lose some parts of yourself that
yeah,
belong to the person that you were in the past, and knowing that the world has moved past that. So yeah,
exactly.
a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good.
And he does it with a smile, not that he has to sacrifice. It's a painful thing. He does it because I am happy. It makes him happy. So I think that's a very rare quality anyone would have. So Yeah. So do you believe that society's definition of role model is evolving as such?
देखो role model, definition of role model, who we collectively think of as role models, that has definitely been changing. That I feel changes with the culture as well, with the
Mhm.
society as well, with our economics as well. Uh, who do we all collectively see as a role model? What kind of people we see as role models? So I think these days, in the last 10, 15 years, we have been looking for strong men who take decisive actions, who don't really care about what others think about them, who are doing things uh, with a bigger purpose in mind. We have that kind of a role model in our mind in the last 10, 15 years. Um, Before that, I feel when India was just independent, we were looking for somebody who was um, very calm, composed, and somebody who was not divisive, given what we had just experienced after the partition as well. So I feel what our definition of role models is changes with our culture, changes with our social dynamics, changes with our regional dynamics and the economics. And that's one of the many wonderful things about human psychology, right? Ki, you can understand the brain as much as you want, but it will be determined by the culture around it. It will be determined by the society around it. So you need to understand the society to understand the human brain as well. So that's wonderful.
Dr. Rahul, do you have any questions for the audience or for the guest or any
Yeah,
insight?
nothing. Maybe we just continue our conversation. Our team is also there. If they can switch on their videos and interact with our host Arjun. So this is all our team from different campuses, Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing. Yeah, Rashi from Noida campus, Gautami from Lavade Pune campus, then Aishwarya Ashok also from Noida campus. Amisha is a yoga therapist. She works from Pune Vimannagar campus. One more Aishwarya from Vimannagar campus. Debanjana from Vimannagar campus and Sakshi also from Vimannagar Pune campus. Sreshta from Lavade campus at university and Juhi from Vimannagar campus. So we also have Sharvari today and some external guests also there apart from SKU. I think Jasmine
Mm.
ma'am is there. Yeah. So wonderful discussion. Anything our team member would like to ask question, the house is open. I think.
काफी फैला हुआ कैंपस है लग रहा है. Everywhere there's somebody. Yes, got me.
We tend to hear a lot about these days about masculine energy. So, can you help us understand a little bit about what truly masculine energy is and how do we differentiate between healthy masculine energy and the unhealthy one?
Personally, I feel that it is just sexism wrapped up in different energy with the masculine and the feminine energy. I don't really see any differences in these energies. We're again imposing those gender roles that we have been trying so hard to get rid of as a society for the last 50, 60, 100 years. And we're just repackaging them and saying that this is a masculine energy, this is a feminine energy, and you have to balance both of those two out. But I feel uh, there can be unhealthy masculinity because if we talk about gender roles and the gender roles that do exist, whether they should exist or not, gender roles do exist in our society. We do things gendered, see world as a gendered entity. There, it can be self-reliance is healthy masculinity, where you're trying to um, do things by yourself, where you're trying to solve problems by yourself. That is healthy. But only self-reliance, where you're not willing to ask anybody for help, where you're saying that anybody who helps you is an idiot or they don't know anything, or that you don't need help at all, that becomes unhealthy, right? One of the masculine ideals is restricted affection, that if you love somebody, you shouldn't really show it very openly. Like, keep it to yourself. Okay? Show it to the other person, but keep it to yourself at times. But not doing it at all, that becomes unhealthy, right? So yes, there are some aspects of these gendered stereotypes that we have that can be very healthy. It is healthy to be self-reliant. It is healthy um, to to cope up with the stresses of life by yourself. Those things are healthy if you can do them by yourself. But if you cannot, and then these stereotypes um, become like a noose on yourself that you are struggling to express yourself. You want to, but you cannot. That is where it becomes a problem, and that is where it becomes unhealthy, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for the insight, Arjun. That was really helpful.
Yes, Amisha.
So hi, and I really want to appreciate the way you spoke throughout the webinar. I just have a question. So you've conducted a lot of support groups, is something that I heard. So what's one thing you would like one tip you would give us as counselors to promote, men coming for therapy? Because I think you've faced that too, and how hesitant they are talking about their emotions and feelings. What's one thing that you would like to advise so that we could also bring in men, to express and create a space for them?
Yeah, I feel we sometimes end up waiting for men to show up to us. We have like we have the table for you, we have the couch for you. Come, we have to go to them to a degree. We have to go to them. We have to understand where they are, go where they are, understand them there, and then if they are okay, then they'll be coming into therapy. So a lot of men, when I go to the gym, they're very expressive there. They're very, you talk to them about things, they'll happily talk to you, but they won't talk to you face to face. They'll be like, you do your set there, I'll do my set here, and we'll talk while we're shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. ठीक है, वो नहीं करेंगे हम. We won't look at each other. We'll just talk into the void. So those things, those very tiny things, which can help a lot. We keep waiting for men to show up. Instead of, we can also go where men are, and then ask them if they're okay with talking about the things that they want to talk about, and do it the way they wish to be talked about these things. There's this reel I posted about a 60-second from the Modern Family show about how men express their emotions and how you can help them express their emotions as well. So maybe you can take a look at that. Maybe that will help a bit.
Great, thanks.
Yes, Gautami.
Just want to add a little bit here more. I think it's really a good way to start with it because a lot of times, like you said, it might not, like men might not want to be there for them the way we want to. But like you said, it's important for us to be there for them the way they want us to be there.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm taking away. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
And that's very important because we expect people to want to be helped the way we want to help them. But that might not necessarily be the case. Maybe sometimes people are just looking for a companion to sit with and talk, not even talk to, just sit with and play games with. And that also ends up becoming very helpful for them. But we feel like we haven't done anything because this is not helping for us. But उनके लिए they are very happy with it. So ठीक है, बहुत. No relationship questions this time. That is surprising. Usually these usually end up with relationship questions.
Yeah,
On that note,
sticking to positive role models.
Yes, Debanjana.
I was unable to ask a question before, but I'm going to just follow up with one of the questions that we discussed. So speaking of societal expectations and like generally, the society sees masculinity as an energy that provides, right? So what do you have to say about that? Like, how can we balance these expectations coming from family members or friends or even partners for that matter?
Oh, well, I genuinely don't know because somewhere or the other, I am also in the same boat as a lot of guys where I have to provide, right? And a psychologist, it's not that easy. So, So yes, I won't lie that I find myself in the same boat, and I also know that this shouldn't be the case. But it is. The fact of the matter is that we live in a place where it is the case where a man has to provide for their family. They have to earn enough. They have to be independent enough that they don't need to rely on somebody else. Um, I feel sometimes it becomes problematic when nothing is ever enough, right? Where somebody who's earning 30 lakhs every year, somebody who's earning 40 lakhs every year, 50 lakhs every year, they're still feeling like it is not enough, even though it's enough for most people for their whole lifetimes, how much they're earning in 1 year. But we still only set ourselves up to fail when we set very high standards on this demand, right? And again, that what determines these demands is the kind of society, the kind of people we're surrounded by. So if I'm surrounded by people who feel like who make maybe like 500 crores a year with their businesses or something, there if I'm earning even 1 crore, I'll be like, I'm poor. Okay. Uh, so I feel we need to set some very realistic standards about ourselves. Ki, how much do you want? How much would you be happy with? As men, this is what my aim is. This is what I want to go for, and that is what I'm trying to go for. Not something that has been imposed on me externally, but if I'm earning this much, I'm fulfilling my role as provider. I think if we can do that, that is one step at least in our own mental well-being. Because otherwise, we are just rat race. It's never enough.
Yeah, that was really insightful. Thank you for sharing and great conversation.
Thank you.
Learned a lot from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Gautam.
This could be a bit off topic, but I'm really curious of how do you tend to manage your workload like? Because we see that you're also into content creation, you make reels, you're also into research. So how do you really manage and what are your priorities at this point
I
in
don't
terms of
manage it. I don't manage it. I am just winging it most of the time. Matlab, you should see my calendar. It is very, very mismanaged. I hope someday I can manage it. So abhi to, it would be a lie to say that I'm managing it very well. But I should. Just for clarification, I should be managing it well because this is not very healthy and not very sustainable in the long run.
Dr. Rahul, last few words if you want to share.
Yeah, thank you, Arjun, for accepting our request to join and share with our audiences. And this video will be live on YouTube also. We share with students because most of them are in the classroom and they may not be able to attend at the same moment, so they can attend it afterwards through YouTube.
Yeah.
So thanks for accepting our request and sharing your insights about men's mental health, which is at the same time a neglected topic. But with this theme, men as a positive role models, you really try to give a justice to men, what I can say from the men's point of view. And I understand that as a role model, it comes a lot of responsibilities,
Mm.
and it is like a kind of a pressure on men also. Like if this theme, if we see itself is adding some kind of a pressure on men that you should be like this, you should always do this. But it is in a good sense that whatever the things we observe in our communities and society, based on that, we are trying to create a new cohort of male who are sensitive, who are compassionate, who are understanding, who are valuing the family, and who are connecting to the community as a part of that community. So this is what we expect on a psychological front or from a mental health perspective. And we aim that one day we will have this community where men will be having following some or other traits of what we discuss as a positive role models. And even if we don't see around or maybe the media doesn't showcase them in the limelight, we will create our own role models inside our heart that you very nicely narrated, that it is important to see from the people around you, and not necessarily you need to see a billionaire or a business person as a role model, which usually happens in the college life. And you really made a wonderful impact on the audiences so that they can look around themselves and within themselves also when they look for a role model in their community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Rahul and Khushbu. It was an honor being here and talking to everyone. And I hope if I visit, I can visit one of your many campuses.
Yeah.
So
You're most
I
welcome
hope-
to all the campuses. And if you are in Pune, we'll connect afterwards as committed prior. We'll connect afterwards once I take some appointment with Dr. Girija overhead also. We'll connect for that purpose also. Thank you so much, Arjun.
Thank you so
In a
much.
nutshell, we have covered from superheroes, movies, till some serious personal experiences. And that was quite insightful. So thank you, Mr. Arjun Gupta, for coming and sharing your insight. And I would also like to thank Dr. Rahul for supporting, Dr. Girija for her visionary leadership and support all the time for all the events, and all the other teammates, Shrestha, for always being there, asking what's needed, what's not needed, and everyone else. So thank you so much for being there. And we'll end today's webinar on a good note. So thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.